I saw him before he saw me. Jace. Still wearing the same tailored suit, still walking like he owned every room he entered. Same smug smirk, the one that once shrunk me down to nothing. He stepped into the farm table like it was his personal runway, hand in hand with a woman who looked like she hadn't touched a French fry in a decade. Brittany. Her perfume announced her arrival before she even crossed the threshold. They didn't see me at first. I was by the host stand, scanning the reservation list for tomorrow, but I felt their laughter echo through the room, the same laughter that once haunted me long after they'd disappeared. I stiffened. Would he recognize me? Would he try to cut me down like he used to? Then it happened. The host walked up and said clearly, confidently, "Your table is ready, Miss Dawson." And just like that, I saw it. His smirk gone, replaced by disbelief. I didn't grow up in places like this. No rooftop bars, no champagne tastings, no sleek restaurants with mood lighting and jazz in the background. I grew up in a 2-bedroom farmhouse outside Salina, Kansas. My mom worked the night shift at a nursing home. My dad fixed tractors. We didn't have much, but we had each other. And we had my mom's cooking. That little squeaky kitchen with its chipped tiles and creaky drawers, that was where I learned to dream. While other kids watched cartoons or played video games, I stood barefoot beside my mother, wide-eyed and silent, as she stirred pots of pot roast, fried catfish, hush puppies, and peach cobbler so good it could make a grown man cry. Every hum, every flick of her wrist, every sprinkle of seasoning, I memorized it like scripture. I used to whisper to myself, "Someday I'll have a place like this, a place that smells like home, feels like love." But dreams don't pay the bills. At 19, I packed my life into a weathered blue suitcase and caught a Greyhound to Austin. It was the only city I'd ever seen that felt alive, like something was always about to happen. It thrilled me. It terrified me. Rachel picked me up from the station. We weren't close, not back then, but we'd known each other since 4th grade, and she was the only person I knew in Texas. She let me crash on her couch in her tiny, humid apartment off South Lamar. The AC rattled like an old man with asthma. The floor groaned every time you blinked, but it was shelter. And for now, that was enough. I applied everywhere. Diners, grocery stores, food trucks. Nobody wanted a girl with no experience and big dreams. Finally, I landed a job at a dingy little cafe near the Metro Rail. We served burnt coffee and microwaved biscuits and called it breakfast. The tips were sad. The manager yelled too much. And by the end of every shift, my feet felt like they were screaming. But I didn't give up. Every night, I opened my cracked secondhand laptop and watched YouTube videos about knife skills, plating, and regional recipes. I wrote everything down in a beat-up composition notebook I took with me everywhere like a Bible. Whenever Rachel worked late, I practiced in her kitchen, using whatever I could afford from the discount bin at H-E-B. One night, I made chicken and dumplings for her. She took one bite, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Maggie, you're wasting your life slinging hash for someone else." I smiled, but inside I felt the sting. She wasn't wrong, but I couldn't afford to quit. Rent didn't care about my dreams. Groceries weren't free. And culinary school. That was a fantasy for people with money. But in the quiet moments, those rare, golden pauses between chaos, I'd close my eyes and see it. A little place with wooden tables, fresh herbs on the windowsill, biscuits in the oven, and smoked brisket simmering on the stove. Not fancy, not flashy, just real. But Austin was cold to dreamers. And then, he walked in. It was just another Monday morning. I was wiping down tables, wishing my sneakers had better insoles, when I heard the soft jingle of the bell above the door. He walked in like he didn't belong because he didn't. Tailored jacket. Polished boots. Watch that probably cost more than 3 months' rent. He looked around the worn-out cafe like it was some kind of joke, like it amused him. Like I amused him. When I stepped up to take his order, he looked at me with icy gray eyes and gave me a slow, practiced smile. "You serve good coffee here?" he asked. I blinked. "We try, but our tea's better." "Then I'll have tea, and whatever dessert you recommend." His voice was smooth, the kind of smooth that usually gets its way. I hesitated, then smiled. "Try the banana pudding. It's not fancy, but it's honest." He nodded slowly. "Honest sounds perfect." That was the first time I met Chase Walker. He came back the next day. And the next. And the next. Always the same booth. Always tea. Always a too generous tip. At first, I thought he was just another guy trying to charm the waitress. But there was something different about him. He asked about me, my life, my dreams, and he actually listened. Or at least it felt like he did. One evening, he waited for me outside after my shift. Said he had something for me. I laughed nervously but followed him to his car. He handed me a small box. Inside, a silver bracelet with a heart-shaped charm. "Chase, I can't accept this." "It's just a token," he said. "You deserve more than this place." I should have known better. But back then, I wanted to believe someone saw more in me than burnt coffee and tips in a jar. 2 months later, I was standing on the rooftop of a fancy downtown hotel. String lights twinkled overhead. Champagne bubbles danced in the air. That's when he dropped to one knee. My heart slammed into my ribs. We had only known each other for 8 weeks. But Chase said, "Time doesn't matter. When you know, you know. Some people waste years pretending. I don't want to pretend with you." He looked at me like I was a treasure. Like I was the rarest thing he'd ever found. And I wanted, desperately, to believe I was. Rachel was furious. She paced our tiny living room, hands flying, voice sharp. "You're out of your damn mind, Maggie," she snapped. 8 weeks, you barely know this guy. Where does he even live? What does he actually do? "He's in real estate investments," I said weakly. "Oh yeah, ever seen an office, a business card?" I didn't answer. My parents weren't as loud, but I could feel their worry. "Sweetheart," my mom said gently. "Love without time is just lightning, bright and fast, but sometimes it burns." But I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want their fear infecting the one good thing I had found since leaving Kansas. Chase made me feel chosen. He made me feel like I belonged in a world I'd only ever seen through restaurant windows. So I said yes. The wedding was quiet. Just a courthouse ceremony. Dinner at a fancy place with overpriced appetizers and white tablecloths. Chase said he didn't believe in flashy weddings. I thought that meant he was grounded. That night, he handed me a set of keys. "To the apartment," he said, wrapping an arm around me. "This is home now, you're home." I stepped inside and felt tears sting my eyes. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Marble countertops. A closet bigger than my childhood bedroom. It was everything I never thought I could have. And for a while it felt like a dream. But dreams, they have expiration dates. At first, the changes were subtle. A late night here. A one-word reply there. Chase started coming home later and colder. No more, "How was your day?" Just tired sighs, distant glances. Conversations that ended before they began. Whenever I asked what was wrong, he'd wave me off. "Not now. Can we not do this?" So I gave him space. Told myself it was just adjustment. Maybe stress, maybe I was overthinking. Then one day, I went to buy groceries. My card declined. Confused, I called him. "Oh right," he said casually. "I had your card deactivated. I'll get you a new one linked to my account. It's just easier that way." "Easier for who?" I asked. "For us," he said with that smooth, dismissive tone. "You're my wife, you shouldn't have to worry about money." Something in me twisted. It didn't feel like love. It felt like control. And then came Brittany. "This is my cousin," Chase said one afternoon. "She needs a place to crash for a while." Just for a while. But she didn't crash, she moved in. The guest bathroom overflowed with her expensive cosmetics. Her designer clothes spilled over our chairs. She ordered the cleaning lady around like we were running a 5-star hotel. And the way she looked at me. Like I was some poor stray Chase had brought home. "You're lucky, you know," she said one morning, sipping green juice in my robe. Chase always knows how to pick what works for him. That sentence didn't just stick. It haunted me. But I still held on. I believed it would all go back to how it was. I needed to believe it. Then came the investment opportunity. We were out to dinner, one of those pretentious fusion places he liked. And out of nowhere, he said, "I'm thinking of expanding into boutique hotels. Great margins. I have a plan, but I need a credit line." I blinked, "Okay." "I thought we'd open a loan under your name. You've got a better credit score. I'll handle the payments. Of course, it's for both of us." I stared at him. "You want the loan in my name?" He smiled. "It's just paperwork, Maggie. You trust me, right?" Something went ice cold in my chest. "I'll think about it," I said. That answer. He didn't like it. He didn't yell, he didn't argue. He just shut down. That night, he barely spoke. The next morning, he was gone. For the first time, I let myself wonder. Who did I really marry? I stood barefoot in the kitchen, lukewarm tea in hand, staring at the skyline like it might give me answers. Then I heard the door open. I froze. I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be him or not. Then I heard his voice. From the hallway. Low, casual, laughing. He didn't know I was home. I backed into the kitchen wall, held my breath. Yeah, she's still clueless, he said into his phone, laughing. I think I've got her where I want her. Bank's already pre-approved the loan, just gotta get her to sign the papers. My hands tightened around the mug. I could feel the ceramic tremble. Then came the words that shattered me. You should see how she looks at me, like a damn puppy, it's pathetic. A beat. Laughter. Once she signs, we bounce. Spain's calling, let her clean up the mess. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I was stone. He didn't just lie. He played me. He laughed at me. I was just a step in his plan. And something inside me snapped. I walked straight to the bedroom. Yanked my suitcase from under the bed. Threw it open on top of the sheets. No folding, no organizing. Just grabbing clothes, toothbrush, my birth certificate, the little wad of emergency cash I had stashed in a sock drawer. Every second felt dangerous. His voice still echoed down the hall. 2 more days max, we're done. I zipped the suitcase. Snatched the keys. Hands shaking. Just go, Maggie. Don't stop, don't cry, don't wait. I opened the door and slipped out into the hallway. No elevator. I ran down 3 flights of stairs, heart pounding in my throat. And when I hit the street, the wind slapped my face like a wake-up call. And for the first time in months, I could breathe. I didn't know where to go. No money. No plan. No friends in the city, not anymore. Except Rachel. And I hadn't spoken to her in weeks. Not since I accused her of being jealous, of not wanting me to be happy. But she was the only person who had ever told me the truth. So I dragged my suitcase 4 blocks to the nearest bus stop, dropped a crumpled $5 bill into the slot, and rode across town in silence, staring out the window like I was watching someone else's life. It was dark by the time I got there. I stood outside her building for what felt like forever. My hand hovered over the buzzer. The city swirled around me, car horns, barking dogs, laughter spilling out of bars. And still I couldn't move. What if she didn't answer? What if I deserved that? But then, I pressed it. The door opened almost immediately. And there she was, Rachel. Oversized t-shirt, mug of tea in hand. No makeup, just real. She looked at me, the suitcase, the tear-stained eyes. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Just a whisper. He didn't kick me out, I left. Something shifted in her face. She put the mug down, crossed her arms. And now what? I swallowed. Can I stay here just for a little while, until I figure it out? She didn't move. Just looked at me, the way only someone who's loved you and been hurt by you can look. Then she said it. You told me I was jealous, that I didn't want you to be happy. I know. No, you don't. I warned you because I care, and you threw that in my face. Tears blurred everything. I was wrong, I know that now. She stared at me for one more heartbeat. Then sighed. Stepped aside. Put the bag down, couch is yours. Relief hit me like a flood. Thank you. Don't thank me, she muttered. Thank whatever's left of my patience. That night, I lay on her couch. A blanket that didn't quite cover my feet. Ceiling fan spinning slowly overhead. Silence pressing in like fog. No husband. No money. No roadmap. But also no chains. I wasn't trapped anymore. And somehow, that was enough to sleep. A few days later, I started signing my name again. Maggie Dawson. I had never legally changed it after marriage. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped using it. I thought taking his name meant becoming part of something bigger. Now I realized it meant I was slowly erasing myself. Letter by letter. But Dawson was mine. And I wasn't hiding it anymore. The next morning, I was up before the sun. Rachel was already in the kitchen. 2 mugs, no words. She handed me one. It was her way of showing grace without saying, I told you so. I sipped bitter, cheap, honest. Like my life right now. And it grounded me. When she left for work, I opened my laptop. Still cracked in the corner from the move to Austin. Scrolled through job listings. Line cook, dishwasher, hostess. Most needed experience. Or credentials I couldn't afford. Culinary school, that was a dream Chase had promised I didn't need. Now even that promise felt like another lie. But I sent applications anyway. Dozens. No one called back. By noon, failure was curling around me again, whispering old lies. You're nothing. You have nothing. You'll always be nothing. Rachel peeked in during her lunch break. Still on that laptop. I nodded. You need to get back into a restaurant. Any restaurant, apply in person, smile, show up like you mean it. I don't want to be a waitress forever. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Then don't be, but first survive. Eat, pay rent. You can chase the dream after you've got your feet under you. She was right. So I took a shower. Put on the cleanest shirt I had. Tied my hair back. And hit the pavement. The first two places left me off. Didn't even let me finish my sentence. But the third, a little Russian Southern fusion spot tucked on a quiet East Austin street, felt different. The manager was a woman with tired eyes and a sharp voice. She skimmed my application, looked me over. "You start tomorrow." I almost cried. Not because it was fancy, it was, but because someone said yes when the world had said no for so long. It wasn't glamorous. The shifts were long. The kitchen was loud, like a symphony made of chaos. And the head chef, Hank Mallister, grumpy, brilliant, barked orders like a drill sergeant, scowled at everything. I kept my head down, ran orders, cleaned tables, carried trays that bent my wrists. But while my hands worked, my eyes studied. Every sauce stirred, every garnish placed, every pan flipped in perfect rhythm, like the kitchen was singing in a language only it knew. One night, near closing, I lingered too long by the pass window. Hank caught me. "What tray you staring at?" he barked. I jumped. "Sorry, just watching. This ain't a damn theater, get to work." I turned to leave, but then stopped. "Your Béarnaise, it's breaking." He squinted at me like I had just spoken in code. "It's too hot," I said softly. "If you pull it off the flame and whisk in some cold butter, it might come back." A long silence. Then, without a word, he did exactly that. The sauce held. He didn't thank me. Didn't even look at me. Just muttered, "Keep working." The next day, he cornered me. "Where'd you learn that?" "Internet." "Culinary school." "Nope." He scratched his chin, looked like he was sizing me up. Then grunted, "You want to learn for real?" I blinked. "Yes." "Then stay after shift. No pay, just watch, listen, and do what I say." My heart leapt. Deal. And just like that, my real education began. Night after night, I stayed behind. While others clocked out and went home, I stayed. Chopping, peeling, stirring, cleaning fish until my fingers felt like raw leather. Hank didn't coddle. He didn't praise. But he taught. Slowly. Patiently. Like passing down a sacred language. And I soaked up every word like sunlight after a storm. For the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Anchored. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a fool. I wasn't a mistake. I was a cook. A fighter. A girl who remembered who she was before the lies, before the heartbreak. The dream I had buried under bruises and shame. It was still there. Dusty. Dented. But alive. Then one Thursday evening, everything shifted again. Dinner rush was peaking. Plates flying. Steam rising. The kitchen was a battlefield. I was balancing trays, scribbling table notes, dancing through chaos when the manager leaned in close. Guy in the corner, that's Mitchell Grant. I blinked. Should I know who that is? She raised a brow. Fieldhouse Group owns farm-to-table restaurants all over Texas. He drops in sometimes, keeps a low profile, always looking for the next big thing. I glanced toward the booth. There he was. Mid-50s maybe. Salt and pepper hair. Rolled up sleeves. Face like he'd seen the world and wasn't trying to impress it. He smiled politely as I approached. Closed his menu. What's actually worth ordering tonight? I didn't miss a beat. Braised short ribs with collard greens, finished in a sorghum glaze, sweet and smoky, my favorite. He smiled slightly. You sound like someone who knows their way around a kitchen. I shrugged. Not officially, still learning. Learning from Hank. I nodded. Every night after shift. He chuckled. Then you're either brave, stubborn, or stupid. I grinned. Maybe all three. He ordered the short ribs and a glass of sweet tea. When I brought the plate, I caught him examining the plating. Not like a customer. Like a critic. He took a slow bite. Chewed thoughtfully. Then nodded once. As I turned to leave, he called out, "What would you change about the dish?" I froze. Servers don't get asked that. Not by men like him. But I looked at the plate, felt the flavor in my mouth again, and said, I'd finish it with a splash of apple cider vinegar. Wise. It needs brightness, something to cut the richness, give it lift. His brow lifted. Like he hadn't expected that. He set his fork down. I have a concept, small, intimate, no gimmicks, real food, but I need someone who actually cares. I blinked. You think that's me? You're the first person I've seen in a long time who looks at food like it matters. I didn't know what to say. Part of me thought he was joking. The other part whispered, "This is your moment." I don't have a degree, I said. No formal training, just hands and Hank. That's more than most, he replied. He didn't say anything else. Just left a very generous tip. And walked out. But the next night, he came back. And again. And again. By the fifth visit, he finally slid a small card across the table. If you're serious, call me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at Rachel's kitchen table, apron still on, hands trembling, staring at that card like it might disappear if I blinked. Rachel walked in, saw my face and asked, "You look like you've seen a ghost." I think someone just offered me a shot at opening a restaurant. Rachel didn't say anything right away. She just sat across from me at the kitchen table. Then in true Rachel fashion, she sipped her tea, set it down and said, "You're not doing this alone." I looked up. What? You heard me, you cook, you've got the heart. I've worked admin for 6 years, I know paperwork, permits, boring stuff. You be the soul, I'll be the spine. My throat tightened. Rachel, I don't even know what to say. She reached across the table, grabbed my hand and smiled. Say yes. And I did. The next morning, I called Mitchell. By noon, we were sitting in a tiny East Austin cafe. Notebooks open. Sketching possibilities. A space that felt like a hug. Sounded like laughter. Smelled like fresh bread. No gimmicks. No trends. Just roots. Mitchell promised to help with startup costs and logistics. But he made one thing crystal clear. This has to be yours, Maggie. Your vision, your heart. I'm just giving it a place to land. I nodded. Still afraid to believe it was real. But it was. And just like that, my second life began. We called it the farm table. Simple, honest. A place where food didn't need translation, just truth. Mitchell helped us scout locations. Some were too small. Some too sleek. Others way out of budget. Then we found it. A squat little brick building on a quiet street in East Austin. Peeling blue paint. Dusty front windows. Hadn't been anything in years. But the bones were good. The ceiling's high. the light soft and golden. I stood in the middle of that dusty shell and whispered, "This is the one." Rachel nodded beside me. "It'll need work." I smiled. "So do we." We signed the lease 2 weeks later. Then came the chaos. No design team. No investors with buzzwords. Just me, Rachel, and a crew of tired contractors who thought we were insane for caring so much about tile colors and reclaimed wood. But every single piece, we chose it. Mismatched chairs from flea markets. Mason jar lighting. Soft blue napkins that reminded me of my mother's old dish towels. Rachel took care of licenses, health inspections, legal headaches. I spent nights in Mitchell's borrowed kitchen, testing recipes, adjusting spice levels, tweaking textures, writing everything down in that same beat-up composition notebook I carried through every version of myself. One evening, Hank showed up. He stood in the doorway of our half-built kitchen, arms folded, eyebrow raised. "You really doing this?" "Looks like it," I said, smiling nervously. He snorted. "You don't have a chef." I swallowed. "I know." He stared at me for a beat. Then muttered, "I'm too damn old to sweat through someone else's startup, but I'll help train whoever you hire. Just don't make me wear a name tag." I almost hugged him. Instead, I just whispered, "Thank you." Opening a restaurant. It's like planning a wedding and giving birth at the same time. Vendor contracts. Inventory. Menus. Budgets. Hiring. Tastings. Some nights, I passed out on top of spreadsheets. Rachel would find me in the morning with coffee in one hand and highlighters in the other, red ink all over my arms like tattoos. "You good?" she asked. No, I'd grown. "But I'm alive." We hired 2 rookie cooks fresh out of culinary school. A pastry chef who had quit a Michelin star kitchen because she hated the ego. And a team of college kids who showed up early, stayed late, and believed in what we were building. The menu came together like a quilt. Piece by piece. Memory by memory. Hot honey biscuits. Sweet potato hash. Braised pork shoulder. Banana pudding with ginger snap crust. All from scratch. No shortcuts. No apologies. I remember standing in that kitchen the night before opening, hand trembling as I peeled the 100th russet potato. Rachel stood beside me, covered in flour and exhaustion. "You ready?" she asked. I looked up. Eyes puffy. Hair wild. Heart full. "No, but let's do it anyway." Opening day. A rainy Saturday in October. The kind of rain that makes people stay in bed. But they came. First a trickle. Then a steady stream. Umbrellas dripping. Smiles cautious. But by noon, we had a wait list. People lingered. Asked about ingredients. Closed their eyes while tasting. Came back the next day. And the day after that. 1 week later, a local food blog published a glowing review. No frills, no fuss, just food that hugs you from the inside. I printed it. Taped it above the line in the kitchen. Every time service got chaotic, when something burned or someone cried, I'd glance at that review. And remember, we were doing something real. A month passed. Then 2. The farm table wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. We had regulars. Families who came every Sunday. Artists who ordered the same cornbread every Tuesday. One sweet old man who left handwritten notes with every check. One read. This reminds me of my mother's kitchen. Don't change a thing. Of course, it wasn't always smooth. We had our hiccups. A clogged sink. A supplier who delivered the wrong meat. A server who showed up drunk and had to be fired mid-shift. But even in the chaos, there was a quiet, glowing truth. We had built something real. Mitchell came by often. Not to micromanage. Just to sit in the corner with a mug of black coffee and a grin that said, "I'm proud of you." One night, as I wiped down tables, he leaned in and said, "This place has soul, but it's also getting crowded." I looked around. Every seat taken. Guests waiting by the door. Kitchen running at full steam. Rachel joined us at the bar, flipping through the numbers. "He's right," she said. "We're turning people away most nights." I sighed. "But that's a good problem, right?" Mitchell smiled, low and calm. "I think it's time you considered opening a second location." His words landed like a stone in my chest. A second location. I hadn't even fully caught my breath from the first. Rachel looked at me. Her face said exactly what I was thinking. "Isn't it a little fast?" "Maybe," Mitchell replied. "But the window is open now. And this isn't a trend, Maggie. You've tapped into something deeper. People want what you're offering." That night, Rachel and I sat in the back office. She sat on the floor, spreadsheets in her lap. I perched on a milk crate, legs trembling. "I don't want to mess this up," I whispered. Rachel looked up. Calm, steady. "You won't, but we can't do it the same way. This one will be bigger, more staff, tighter systems, more pressure." I nodded slowly. "Do you think we can pull it off?" She stared at me. "I think you've come too far to play small." And so we began again. We toured over a dozen spaces. Some too modern. Some too boxy. Some just didn't feel right. Then we found it. An old restaurant space tucked between a vinyl record shop and a plant store. Worn wood floors. High ceilings. Windows that caught the morning light just right. I walked to the center of the room. Turned in a slow circle. And whispered, "We could make this home." We signed the lease that Friday. While the plaster crumbled and the paint peeled, we rolled up our sleeves and got to work. Different location. Same mission. To serve food that tasted like it came from someone who loved you. 2 weeks later, we opened the doors to Farm Table downtown. It was still finding its rhythm. The pastry fridge hadn't arrived yet. The host stand wobbled. But the dining room, full. Every table taken. Voices layered with jazz music. The kitchen humming like a living, breathing thing. I was double-checking the reservation list when I heard it. That voice. Too familiar. Too cold. Too smug. "Seems a little noisy for a place this upscale," he said. I turned. Jace. Dressed head to toe in designer arrogance. And beside him, Brittany. Perfect hair. Perfect nails. Fake smile. Eyes scanning the room like it was beneath her. My stomach didn't drop. My hands didn't shake. I stood tall. Still. Whole. They didn't recognize me, not at first. Brittany glanced around and smirked. This must be new, cute in a rustic way. Bet the waitresses wear flannel. Chase chuckled. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if Maggie ended up somewhere like this, assuming she didn't drown in that mess she ran from. And just then, a server passed by. Miss Dawson, the supplier's here for the new seasonal tasting. He's waiting by the kitchen. Chase's face changed. Slowly. Like molasses on glass. Confusion. Disbelief. Then something sharper. You're the owners. I met his eyes. Held them steady. That's right. Brittany blinked. Wait, you run this place. I smiled. Built it twice. She scoffed. Well, I guess Chase gave you a head start, with the money. My smile didn't budge. You mean the loan you both tried to trick me into signing? Brittany's face went pale. Chase's jaw tightened. I leaned just slightly forward. Funny, I used to think you two ruined me. Turns out, you gave me the push I needed. Silence. No comebacks. No smirks. Just nothing. I gestured toward the door. We're fully booked tonight. Maybe try somewhere else. They turned and left. No scene. No shouting. Just the sound of footsteps fading. And sweet, soul-satisfying silence. That night, once the rush had died down, I stepped onto the back patio. The air was cool. Stars blinking above. City lights glittering in the distance. Laughter drifting from inside. Rachel joined me. Handed me a steaming mug of tea. You okay? She asked. I didn't answer right away. Just looked up at the sky. They came in tonight, I said. She didn't need names. Chase. I nodded. And Brittany. Another nod. She let out a low whistle. Smug, loud, condescending. More or less. She leaned against the railing. And how'd it feel? I thought about it. The moment, the faces, the silence. I thought it would hurt, I whispered. I thought I'd feel angry, vindicated, but I didn't. I just felt done. Rachel smiled softly. That's the best kind of victory. I looked out over the city. There was a time, I said, when I would have given anything for him to want me again. Just to prove I mattered. Rachel glanced sideways. And now? I smiled, full and real. Now I don't need that. I have this. My name on the window. My food on the plate. My people in this space. He didn't break me. He redirected me. Rachel nudged my shoulder. You finally believe it, don't you? I nodded. I do. Because the truth is, I wasn't the same girl who walked into that greasy diner. I wasn't the shadow that waited to be chosen. I was the one doing the choosing now. Choosing my life. My future. Who stood beside me. And who never would again. As the lights flickered off inside and the kitchen quieted, I turned to Rachel. What's next? She grinned. Sleep, then brunch, then maybe a cookbook. I laughed. Let's survive Sunday service first. She raised her mug. To survival. I clinked mine against hers. To building something that lasts. Because I finally understood. Success isn't a man in a suit handing you a life. Success is choosing your life. Piece by piece. And building it with your own two hands. Even if it starts with a suitcase, a broken heart, and a recipe scribbled in pencil. This was mine.